My name is Josefina Polo Formalejo Piquel,
Okay. And you are Filipino, right?
and I'm a full part Spanish and Filipino.
When did you live in the Philippines?
I lived in there since I was born, 1936 to 1960.
How old were you when the Japanese invaded the
I was
Philippines?
6 to 7 years old.
Do you know what was going on when it happened?
No, the
No.
only thing I know that they were shooting around us when they invaded our hometown.
What happened to your family?
The fighting, it was in the middle of the night. They were fighting, so we have to run out of the house and go in the bushes. And our school was taken over by the Japanese. Make a story short, the uh, the, s- the the spy for the Japanese came to my father, and he said that he wants to some sack of rice from my father. And my father said, you know, the rice is not ready to harvest yet. You have to wait for 3 months. And he said, no, we see your silo is full of rice. Why don't you give it to us? This is the spy, but he's a Filipino spy for the Japanese. So my father said, no, I cannot give that to you because that's for our own consume. That's for our own food. The spy who is supposedly to be a cousin of my father, went back to the garrison where the Japanese are, and they told him wrong. They told him lies that my father is supplying uh, rice to the guerrilla. A few days later, the spy came back with I think I don't remember. I think 5 or 6 Japanese with a bayonet, with a gun and everything. And my father told my told this he's supposedly to be a relative of my father. He's the Filipino, but he's for the Japanese. He's the spy for the Japanese, and he said that you know you have to give us the rice. And my father said, okay, I have rice in here. If you want, you can take it. So they took it. Then they went back to the garrison. When they came back to the house, he told my father, "No, you have to go with us. You're supplying rice for the guerrilla in the Americans." In that at that time, the Americans landed in Leyte, 1942. So in a way, the guerrilla said, "No, I think you're supplying the guerrilla." And the Japanese was against the guerrilla. They're the enemy. So my father said, no. He said, no, Celerino. The name of the spy is Celerino. No, Celerino. We never, I am a farmer. I tend the product in my own self to feed my family. That's what my dad was saying. So they went back again. And then after an hour or so later, they came back. And he said, oh, you have to come with us to the garrison. But before that, my grandfather was already in the garrison. They were beating up my grandpa. That's why when my grandpa come out from the garrison, this town is all like this. Because they were hung him by the town, and only his toe is touching the floor. And beat him, beat him, and beat him. So about noontime, they came back to the house. The spy said, no, I think you better come too. So they took my mom. And my mom just had a baby, my little brother. He was 2 months old. So they took my mom and they start beating him up and beating him up. Then their godmother was also in the garrison. They will beat her up. And the godmother of my mother and father, they were beating her up, and she was pregnant, and she had the baby right there. And when the baby, you know what the baby did to my mom's godmother? They tossed the baby out and shoot it with a bayonet. So the baby died. The other spy that was good for us give us every details what they're doing to my mom and my dad. And his name is Francisco. So he came to us about noontime and he told my aunt and my grandpa. He said at 3 o'clock you better bring the children to the garrison by the school because they're gonna cut the head of the children's mom and dad, Arsenio and Arsenio and Rufina. So we went to the garrison and he said, "Don't go in the garrison, just stay by the fence." And they're gonna bring your mom and your dad there, then you can see them. So about 10 minutes to 3, we went in the garrison, okay, and I seen my mom and my dad. They're coming down, plus my uncle, because they also torture my uncle. He was there before my mom and my dad, so they torture also my uncle, my dad's cousin. So they were coming down. The three of them, they were coming down, And I yelled out at my mom and I said, "Mom, mom!" I call him Nanay, but in English is mom. I said, "Nanay, Nanay!" And all we can see is the blood. They were beheaded. Pie that is for us. He told me in my plan. I said, "You kids, you better go home. Your mom and dad is already beheaded by the Japanese."
What happened to your little brother?
My little brother, the youngest one, he was only 6 months old. We start hiding because the Japanese, they were all, fighting with the guerrilla. So we don't want to be in the middle of the gunfight. So we ran at the middle of midnight. We ran to the mountain. So when we ran to the mountain, my little brother, he was only 6 months old. 3 months old. We don't have any food for him. We don't have any milk. So my aunt only feeds him is a honey in a little water. So my brother developed beriberi, because there's no substance in the food.
And did he die?
There's no milk. So anyway, about 4 months later, I was, because my little brother, I was taking care of him. I was trying to, make him stop crying. He was crying and crying, and I said, "Please, brother, stop crying." I said, "Stop crying." So he stopped crying. I said, and I still, rocking him. So anyway, it's I said, "Auntie, how come my brother stopped crying?" And then I was still rocking him. And he said, he looked at him. He looked at him, his mouth was open. I said, "Your brother's dead."
So what did you do when it was over? Did you move to America?
No. Then we found out that my father's only brother is in the U.S. Army, is in the Philippine Scout. When he found out about his brother and my mother were killed, they put a search on us, the children, and then they found us. So 1948, we were adopted by my uncle.